I need to talk to Matuska.
Hold on a minute. Okay. The court is in session and cause number 331904. The case is style of state of Texas versus Dylan Ryder Holmes. Mr. Combs, is that your full name?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Combs, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Combs, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I swear.
Okay, Mr. Combs, you may put your hand down. How are you doing, Mr. Combs?
I'm pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking. Mr. Combs, you're here represented by your attorney, Attorney Ryan Matuska. Attorney Matuska, do you waive a record in Mr. Combs' case?
We do, Your Honor.
Mr. Matuska, I have before me a document that is a collection of information form or mental illness or intellectual disability, not commonly known as our Sandra Bland form, which is an assessment. Have you received a copy of this assessment, Mr. Matuska?
Yes, sir.
And have you reviewed the assessment?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any objection to the findings, conclusions, and recommendations in this assessment?
No, sir.
And Ms. Morgan, have you received a copy of this assessment?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have any objections to the finding and conclusions and recommendations in this assessment?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. The court has received a copy of the assessment as well, and court will take judicial notice of the finding, conclusions, and recommendations in this assessment. The court, based on the finding, conclusion, recommendations in this assessment, court finds that the defendant is a person who is mentally ill. However, this offense is not violent. It's not a violent offense. And the court also finds, or the court has determined that there is a community-based mental health, intellectual disability services that are appropriate and available in the community. Now, Mr. Combs, I have before me a document that is titled information. This document was filed by the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office. And in this document, Mr. Combs, the state is alleging that on or about July 15th of 2021, on count one, that you committed the offense of possession of a controlled substance penalty group 2, and in count 2, they're also alleging that you are committed the offense on July 15th of 2021 of possession of a controlled substance penalty group 2. Now, in this information, Mr. Combs, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
Guilty.
Now, you're pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
Voluntarily.
And are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Sir?
Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, Mr. Combs, I also have before me a document that is titled misdemeanor plea admonishment. It is also labeled as State's Exhibit Number 1. Okay, now, Mr. Matuska. I'm looking at the document. It has the box that's checked for a Class A misdemeanor. This is a Class B misdemeanor. Mr. Combs and Mr. Matuska, do I have your permission, Mr. Combs, to make the correction to a Class B misdemeanor?
Sir.
And Mr. Matuska, do I have your permission to make the correction to a Class B misdemeanor?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Combs, this is a Class B misdemeanor, and the range of punishment for a Class B misdemeanor is confinement in jail for a term not to exceed 180 days, a fine not to exceed $2,000, or both such fine and confinement. Do you understand the range of punishment for a Class B misdemeanor?
Yes, sir.
All right, now, page 2 of this same document, Mr. Combs, I have before me a set of initials, DC, that are on a line next to a box that's checked guilty. Mr. Combs, did you place your initials on this document?
Yes, sir.
And on page 3 of this same document, Mr. Combs, there's a signature above the line that is titled defendant. Mr. Combs, did you sign this document?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Combs, I have another document before me. This document is titled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal. And on this document, there's also a signature above the line that is titled defendant. Mr. Combs, did you also sign this document?
Yes, sir.
At the top of this same document, Mr. Combs, there are 2 boxes that are checked. The first box that's checked states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
The second box that's checked states that you're waiving your right to an appeal, which means you're giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Combs, did you sign a document out there on paper that is titled Discovery Certification?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Combs, before you signed and initialed all of these documents that I have just mentioned to you, did your attorney go over these documents with you?
Yes, sir.
And did you read and understand everything that he went over?
Yes, sir.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Absolutely.
Mr. Combs, are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, sir.
State, I have before me State's Exhibit number 1. State, you like to offer State's Exhibit number 1?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objections, Mr. Matuska?
No, Your Honor.
No objection. State's Exhibit number 1 will be admitted. Mr. Matuska, you've advised and counseled Mr. Combs. Is there any evidence that he is currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Combs, your attorney, Mr. Matuska, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, sir.
Has he provided full, effective, and competent legal representation?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Combs, I will accept your plea of guilty. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. And I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
Yes, Your Honor. It's
And what
30
is that?
days.
Okay. Mr. Combs, the
Yes, sir.
state is offering that you serve 30 days in the Jefferson County Jail. You will be given credit for any time that you are entitled to get by law. The court cost in this case, Mr. Combs, is $327. Will you be able to pay the $327?
No, sir.
Okay, Mr. Combs, I have before me a document that is titled Affidavit of Indigence. This document has your name on it, and on page 2 of the same document, there's a signature that purports to be your signature, and it's dated May 11, of 2022. Mr. Holmes, is everything on this document true and correct to the best of your knowledge? Now, the information that they have the name of 4 children, name and ages of 4 children, and they have monthly income and assets information, and also they have information regarding the monthly expenses. Now, is everything still true and correct today on this form?
I believe so.
Okay. Now, Mr. Combs, based on the information that you provided on this affidavit of indigence, that's the court is going to find that you are indigent, and based on that finding of indigency, the court costs in this case will be waived pursuant to Article 42.15 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. And basically, Mr. Combs, what that means is you will not be required to pay the court costs in this case of $327 because it will be waived. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Combs, do you understand the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
And do you think the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
Yes, sir.
And do you accept the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Combs, I'll follow the plea bargain agreement that you have entered into with the state. Mr. Combs, this will conclude your case. You can follow the bailiff, and you have a blessed day.
Yes, sir. You have a blessed one as well.
Thank you. Elena Barrier.
Come on, Barry. Hey. Oh, hey.
Ms. Barrier, would you please take
Hey.
you could take a seat, Ms. Barrier.
Hey. Hello, okay. Have a seat for real?
Yes, please be seated. Okay, the court is in session in cause number 332318. The case is styled the state of Texas versus Helena Janae Barrier.
Yes, sir. That's my whole name.
Okay, Ms. Barrier, is that your full name?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Barrier, would you please raise your right hand? Actually, I think it's your other hand, Ms. Barrier. Okay, Ms. Barrier, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Barrier, you may put your hand down. How are you doing, Ms. Barrier?
No.
My question was, how are you doing? You doing fine?
I'm fine.
Okay. Now, Ms.
I
Barrier,
don't want to be homeless.
I
I don't
understand.
want to be homeless.
Okay. Now,
I need
Ms.
some money.
Okay.
And I don't know why the police keep pulling me over for trespassing.
Okay, now, Ms. Barrier, I have before me a document.
No, for real. I don't know why the police officers keep pulling me over for trespassing. I'm not doing nothing. I say that to them every time they arrest me. I'm not doing nothing. I'm not doing nothing. I'm not smoking. I'm not drinking. I'm not doing any drugs on the streets. They pulling me over and arresting me, saying I trespass. And I'm going where I need to be.
Okay. Now, Ms. Barrier, you understand, you just mentioned, you understand you've been charged with the offense of trespassing. Do you understand that?
No,
Oh, you don't?
not this time. No, sir.
We're gonna wait 3 minutes on him to finally decide his name.
Miss,
So,
okay. Well, Mr. You need some time to talk to your client?
Okay. No, I don't want to play with that. No, because I don't want to play with trespassing. They wrong for that.
Okay. Mr. Matuska, I don't think we're gonna be able to go forward on this here case.
Yes, sir.
Would you have her to get the bailiff? Ms. Barry, please knock on that door. So you can get the bailiff. Okay. Mr. Porter, we won't be able to go forward